Welcome to H2K Infosys. H2K Infosys is a e-verify business based in Atlanta, Georgia, United States. We provide 100% job-oriented, instructor-led, face-to-face, true live online software training programs. It also includes access to cloud test lab with software tools. We provide live project for you to work on. We also provide assistance with mock interviews, resume preparation and review, and job placement assistance. H2K Infosys is trusted by so many students across the world. H2K Infosys provides world-class services in IT training with real-time project work for corporates and individuals, special IT training for MS students in the United States, software design, development, QA manual and automation, performance testing and maintenance, IT staff augmentation, job placement assistance, and tech support.
Your Eclipse, you have a bin folder, and within bin folder you have the package structure for your .class file. See, your servlet also just like a .java file. That means it will also get generated as a .class file, and the package structure, the .class along with a package structure, you are supposed to specify under the classes folder. There is one important one, which is web.xml file. Currently, we are discussing about the container has received the request. Come back to another diagram. A lot of times we have discussed that our container will be going to process the request and identify the servlet. And also it will provide you the request and response objects. So we won't be having only one servlet within our application, or we won't be having only a single application within our entire web server. We'll be having a lot of applications, and also each and every application consists of a lot of servlets or a lot of resources. So that means you are supposed to inform to the web container that, hey, I'm having this servlet. Hey, or else I'm having number of servlets and I want this request nothing but your URL path to be mapped to this servlet. Or whenever I'm submitting the form, so currently I'm submitting the form login.html and I want to invoke date servlet. Currently you are executing login.html. You have mentioned that go and search for a resource called date servlet. There is a date servlet available, but how your container understands that whenever the request has received for date servlet, it was supposed to call the date servlet doGet method. Everything will be based on a configuration file, which is called as deployment descriptor file. In short, it will be called as DD file. Deployment descriptor file, the actual representation is web.xml file, which will be located at the same level, inside your WebINF folder. So your WebINF folder will consist of libraries and also classes and also a web.xml file. So within your web.xml file, you will map the servlet to the URL pattern. So that means currently my servlet is date servlet, and I want to map this to login page. So whenever I have submitted a request, whenever the user has submitted request with login /login, I want the container to call the date servlet. So that means whatever the action attribute that you have specified within your HTML file, that will be mapped to a servlet within your DD file. So whenever a request has submitted with /login, currently we have submitted with date servlet, I guess. Date servlet. I want to call com.date.servlet.date servlet. I want to call this one. So once you have mapped like this, your container will verify, yeah, request has received for date servlet, and I have a corresponding Java file also available within the DD, and it will create a thread for each client request. Servlet will be loaded by the container, and it will only create one instance. So to handle number of clients, see, we are not the only ones that will execute H2KInfosys.com site. There will be plenty of users who will be going to execute H2KInfosys.com and submit the form. So whenever a form has submitted, it will verify the action, and the action tag, it will use the action tag, and it will send the request to the server. It will send the request to the server. Are you guys able to hear my voice?
Yes, Krish.
Oh, is it breaking?
Here and there, Krish.
Okay, let me know if at all if it is breaking. One more time, we'll see, and I'll join by using normal phone number. Okay?
Okay, Krish.
Yeah. So whenever we have submitted a form, the form will be submitted by using the action attribute, and the action attribute, which consists of a URL path, will be verified by your web container, and the web container will verify within your DD and identifies what is the corresponding servlet. And once it has identified a corresponding servlet, it will create a separate thread for that, and it will invoke the doGet or doPost method. Remember, it won't create a new instance for each client request, and it will only create a separate thread. So that means whatever the servlet that you have written, it will be loaded only once in the memory, and it will consist of only one instance of your date servlet. So that means whatever the instance variables that you have written, those are all shared between all the threads. And that's the reason you are supposed to avoid the instance variable declaration within your servlets. Whatever the variable that you want to declare, you should declare within the method only, and you shouldn't specify outside the method or as instance variables.
Krish, could you repeat that one, please? I didn't understand, I guess.
Yeah. See, normally when you have instance variables within a class,
okay,
and two threads are created for the same instance. Just like your account object, your joint account object, which is shared between two different threads. Okay? So at that time, all your instance variables are shared between those two threads, right?
Yes.
The balance amount or the normal amount or any kind of instance variables.
Okay.
So in this case also, if you write instance variables, then those will be shared between the different threads that are going to be created by your container.
Oh, okay.
That's the reason you are supposed to avoid writing the instance variables within your servlets.
Okay.
Okay.
Because they're not thread safe, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
let us take a look at another scenario, just like a general scenario wherein two client requests are coming at the same time. I can query H2KInfosys.com and you can query H2KInfosys.com and click on form submission at the same time. But the form submission will go to one servlet only, because there is the form submission either you submit or when I have submitted. Both the times it will use the same action attribute and it will submit the request with same URL path. So that means the request will go to the container. Here you can see that the request has received to the container from both sides, and then it will see that it will verify that is the servlet already loaded into the memory or not, or this is the first time or not. If at all, if it is the first time, then it will create an instance and it will create a thread and associate the request to the client. If the servlet was already loaded into the memory, then it will simply create a thread and it will hand over the request and response objects, and then it will call the doGet or doPost method. So whatever the request that it has received, or whatever the request or response objects that got created for the client 1, not at all conflicting with the request or response objects that are created for thread 2. Because for each and every client request, the container will create a separate thread and the container will create a separate request and response object and calls the doGet or doPost method.
Krish?
Yep.
Are you saying that only one object will be created for the servlet?
Yeah, one servlet object will be created.
Okay, the references will be given back to these things.
Currently, we don't need any kind of mechanisms that will be taken care by your container, right? We don't need any kind of those references at all, because your container will be going to create an instance and your container will be going to create a thread and your container will be going to create the request and response object, and only thing is you just need to provide the definition for doGet or doPost method. Okay. Come back to our servlet hierarchies. On the top level, which is a servlet interface. So here also you can see that they have followed a standard kind of stuff, specification, which should all the implemented methods, or sorry, all the methods, abstract methods at the interface level, followed by an abstract class, and then our user servlet. The servlet class consists of 3 methods. The first one is init method, and the next one is service method, and the last one is destroy method. We'll discuss about those 3 methods later. And your generic servlet, this is an abstract class which implements your servlet class and provides definition for some of the methods. The purpose of providing a generic servlet at this level is, currently you have created a HTTP servlet. You can create an FTP servlet, which is based on FTP protocol. Your HTTP servlet is based on HTTP protocol. And Java specs are just like they have provided only one level, and if at all, if you want to, you can go for some other protocols and you can provide definition for that one as well. I know one more servlet, which is SIP servlet, which is used for telecom domain call processing techniques. That is based on SIP protocol. So that's the reason they have provided a level, one level, which is generic servlet, and based on generic servlet, you can define any kind of protocol based servlets. So our servlet is currently HTTP servlet model, and whenever you are writing your user servlet, you should extend HTTP servlet only. And the next one is our custom servlet, whatever that we are going to write, and provide the definition for do get or do post method. And here your generic servlet extends one more interface, implements one more interface, which is servlet config, which contains configuration information for our servlet. What are all the configuration information? We'll take a look at that one. On the right side, you can see that there are three methods: init, service, and destroy. Forget about these two. We'll discuss about them later. The init, service, destroy forms a servlet life cycle. Just like your thread has a life cycle, your servlet also has a life cycle. Whenever a servlet has loaded into the memory, or whenever a first instance has created, it will call the initialization method. So the initialization will be called only once in a life cycle of a servlet, because from then onwards we are going to create a separate thread but not a new instance. The service method, where exactly your work will be going to perform, or where exactly your business logic will come into the picture. The destroy method, this will also called only once in a life cycle when the container decides when to call the destroy method, and normally the destroy method will call just before shutdown of your application server. So just before you're doing the shutdown for your application server, all your servlets will get destroyed, and during that time the destroy method will get called. Just like your finalize method, whenever your Java object will be removed from the memory. So the service method is the heart of your servlet life cycle, and this service will be just like number of threads will be created, and each and every thread will consist of its own do get method or do post method based on the request type, and once after the request has processed by the do get or do post, the response will be sent back to the container. But currently we are specifying here service method, and we are overriding do get or do post. The service method is available at the top level, and the service method, in the service method, it verifies whether the method type is get or post, and if the method type is get, it will call do get method, and if the method type is post, the service method will call do post method. So that means your container won't call the do get or do post method, and your container will simply call the service method. So the service method, see, currently the service method implementation was available at generic servlet level. But when we are working at the user servlet level, what are all the methods that are available at generic servlet, I can easily access at the user servlet level. Normal inheritance concept here. So within your service method, you are trying to call the do get method. So do get method at the lower level will be going to receive the call, even though you have the definition at HTTP servlet. The do get at lower level will get the call, which is based on superclass reference to subclass object or dynamic method dispatching. Whenever your whenever your container calls the service method, it passes two information. The first one is request object, and the next one is response object. The request object consists of information about the request that was sent by the client, and the response object is just like the pre-input. You can just make use of that and construct the response, and once after that, that response object will be passed back to the client. So your servlet request, it is an interface, and the HTTP protocol, they have provided a definition like HTTP servlet request, and the servlet response, they have provided one more interface, which is HTTP servlet response. So here you can see that your HTTP servlet request consists of certain methods: get parameter of string. The get parameter of string, which is used to retrieve the form parameters, and also get headers. If it consists of certain header information, just like if you want to send what is the content type kind of stuff, you can make use of get content type, and header information information. Normally it consists of some authorization or authentication kind of stuff. We'll discuss about header information later. Forget about get session, that was not required right now. And the next one is get content type. The content type is used to identify what is the message format that the request is sending. See, currently we are sending only HTML page information. Sometimes, let us say, you are sending some audio information. So in that case, you are sending the data in terms of audio format. So the server has to know what kind of information or what kind of format that you are sending. Either it is audio/WAV file, or audio/WMV file, or audio/MP4 file. The format the server has to understand, then only it can process the information or retrieve the information based on the content type. And the HTTP Servlet response object. The Servlet response object consists of certain methods. Get writer. Once you got the response object, the purpose of response object is to send some information back to the client. Call a method get writer, which will provide you the output stream kind of information, just like your print writer. So by using your print writer, you can set any kind of information, and that information will be sent back to the client. We'll discuss about response dispatcher and send array in later classes. Now that we have seen about do-get or do-post mechanisms and how it will be called by the container, let us take a look at the DD, how we are going to configure the DD. So within your Eclipse project, you can see that these two, you can forget about these two. These two are not required as of now. And the next level is Java resources, where exactly we have placed our Java files. And the next one is web content folder. Your web content folder is the one which will be going to place as your project deployment. So within your web content, you can see that the structure also. Within your web content, nothing but the project directory structure. It consists of meta-inf and web-inf. Inside your web-inf, you can see library was there. Even classes folder was also there, but it won't be displayed here. And also web.xml file. And also the location for your static pages or your dynamic pages, just like your JSP pages, it should reside under your web content folder. That means it should reside under your web-inf folder. Sorry, under your project directory itself. Let us take a look at our within our Tomcat. So, yeah.
Are we going to learn about deployment later?
No, we are deployment in the sense.
How did you deploy that application now? How did you get
no, deployment was done automatically by your Eclipse.
Just by saving?
Sorry?
Just by saving the file, it got deployed, or you did some?
No, I have shown that to you, right? Add and remove the projects, and I have selected here, and I have clicked on finish, which will deploy the project to the server.
Oh, okay.
There are some other mechanisms, but we'll discuss about later. So here within the Servlet project, we have mentioned that meta-inf and web-inf folder, and along with all your static resources or all your JSP pages, it should reside under at this level only. Then only it will be looked by our web container properly. And web.inf consists of two folders, classes and library, and also web.xml along with those two. Library, currently I don't have any third-party libraries, that's why it is empty. And within my classes, you can see that com.date.servlet.dateServlet. So my servlet was available within your classes folder. And the last one is web.xml file. Web.xml is called as deployment descriptor file, which consists of all the information about your servlet to URL mapping, and it also consists of all the information related to your welcome files or listeners or any other kind of stuff.
Krish?
Yep.
Okay, so we have this hierarchy on the left right now, classes, then com, date, and servlet. Is this the exact category that we have when we declare our package? Like what is
this one, com dot, you're asking me about this?
Yeah, like, we have classes, then inside that you have a com folder, then a date folder, and then the servlet is there inside that date folder.
Yeah, that's the package I have created for the servlet.
Okay, so but if we don't use the dot operator in that package, then we don't see this hierarchy here, right? If you don't say like the package name is like com dot something, just the package name is like, oh, okay, got it.
Now take a look at our web.xml, which is our key module for our container. Normally, once a client request is submitted to the server, your web container decides which servlet to instantiate or which servlet thread needs to be created based on the DD. So that means whenever a web container has received the request from the client, the first thing it will do is verifying the web.xml file. So within your web.xml file, you are supposed to configure all your servlets. If at all, if you didn't get this tree structure, no need to bother about that. This will come when we move to Hibernate. I have represented the XML elements in terms of a tree structure here. The root element is web app. And within web app, it consists of servlet and servlet mapping. It also consists of several other parameters which listener and context para and welcome file, those are not required as of now. We are only concentrated about servlet or servlet mapping. So the first one is servlet element, which consists of two more elements, servlet name and servlet class. The servlet mapping, you can see that it also consists of two parameters, which are servlet name and URL pattern. So here you can see that I'm using the servlet name, but the servlet name is common between servlet and servlet mapping. So the servlet name, which identifies the URL pattern to servlet class. So once a URL pattern has submitted, so once a form has submitted, it consists of certain URL pattern, and that URL pattern will be mapped to a servlet name. By using that servlet name, we can easily identify servlet class because the servlet name from servlet mapping or servlet, both are common only. Let us take a look at within our web.xml itself. You can see that the root element is web app and it consists of certain namespaces, and after that it consists of display name, which specifies your project name. It consists of certain welcome files, and the next level is your servlet and servlet mapping. See, currently we haven't written this web.xml file. It was written by our Eclipse automatically when you have created a servlet. The first tag is servlet tag, which consists of two important elements, which are servlet name and servlet class. And your servlet mapping will also consist of a servlet name and URL pattern. Here, URL pattern is the one which will be used in our action tag. No need to specify the slash at this level, but you are supposed to specify while specifying the URL pattern within your servlet mapping. And the next thing is name of the servlet. Here you can see that I have used the date servlet, and you can see that it has mapped to the date servlet which was available within my servlet tag. And then the corresponding servlet class you should specify with the fully qualified package name. See, let us go and create one more servlet. See, currently you have only one servlet tag. Let us go and create one more servlet. Sorry. Currency servlet. com.date.servlet, created there itself. Currency servlet. Or else let me write a normal Java class and convert that to servlet. Create a currency servlet. Click on finish. So when you have created a normal class, web.xml Eclipse won't understand that this is related to servlet, and it won't make an entry within your web.xml file. When you have created a normal class, you are supposed to write everything. So the first step is you need to extend your HTTP servlet. Next thing is you need to provide the definition for doGet or doPost method. So the syntax for that is protected void doGet. It accepts two objects. The first one is HTTP servlet request, which consists of all the request information. The next one is HTTP servlet response, which consists of the response related stuff. Once after that, doGet of currency servlet called. I'm just taking this one. So the next step is we need to prepare the response. To prepare the response, you have only one option to get the writer from your response object. See, the print writer, which is used just like your stream, which will send the response back to the client. Writer dot. There are several print methods. You can make use of any of the methods. You can pass any kind of data. That means so currently I'll pass normal information. This is H2K Java class. Make use of H1 tag so that it will display the data in H1 font. The next step, what we are supposed to do is configure the servlet with respect to our web.xml file. So to configure, the first thing is you need to have servlet, which consists of both the elements, servlet name and servlet class, and also servlet mapping, which consists of servlet name and URL pattern. You just use control space, it will provide it to you. You can easily fill that. And the next one is servlet class. So servlet class, you need to specify the fully qualified name, and let us name it as currency. The next element is servlet mapping. This also consists of two important ones. First one is servlet name. The servlet name, whatever that you have used at this level, you should use the same one, or else it can't match the URL pattern to the servlet class. So let us say the URL pattern also we are giving as CURR, or else you can change this to currency converter. You can use any kind of name, but whatever that you have used while submitting the form, you should make sure that you are using the same. I'm not going to create one more HTML file, so I'm going to submit from the same login.html file. I'm sorry. So once you have configured like this, Java will map the URL pattern to this URL, to this servlet class. And for the first request, it will create an instance, and then from then onwards, it will create only a separate thread for that particular servlet, and it will handle all the client requests. So the reason why we are saying the client request is, whenever we are submitting the form, that is just like the browser submission. So here in this case also, you are submitting the form login.html. Login.html. That means you are submitting the browser request to the server. So just like you are submitting a client request. And remember one more thing, whenever you made changes to your web.xml, you should restart the server, or else whatever the configuration that you have made, it won't be affected onto the project that got deployed onto the server.
Krish?
Yep.
Do we have to make explicitly make change in the web.xml every time?
Exactly. If at all, if you are not creating properly, like creating directly a servlet, then you are supposed to.
Okay. If we directly create a servlet using that new servlet, then we don't have to explicitly write it in the web.xml, right?
Exactly.
If we create it as a servlet, the JVM itself will create this. Krish? Krish?
Sorry, Soumya, your voice is breaking. Can you repeat one more time?
Yeah, I asked if we create a servlet directly, the JVM itself will update the web.xml file. If we create a class and then convert it into a servlet, then we have to write this explicitly.
Oh yeah, here it was written by the Eclipse, but not by JVM.
Yeah, that's what, because date.servlet we did not write. That's the reason I asked.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Krish.
Now let us go and execute the file login.html. Normally, whenever there are changes to web.xml, the Eclipse already know that it was supposed to restart a server, and it will provide you an option to restart there itself.
So many of our students have given testimonials on how our training programs are. You will find them on kudzu.com and on our website H2KInfosys.com. On our website H2KInfosys.com, you will also find more detailed information on who we are, the courses that we offer, what each course covers. Also, if you're interested in a demo program, please register on our homepage on the left-hand side. Just give us more information about yourself and we will send you a link for a demo class. The demo class is absolutely free. Experience our commitment by just attending an orientation workshop at no cost. Our team of faculty and advisors are here to guide you with the right information. If you still have more questions, please feel free to call us. Call us at 770-777-1269. This is a United States number. If you're calling from the UK, call us at 020-337-17615. You can also email us at training@h2kinfosys.com or h2kinfosys@gmail.com. Thank you for watching our videos. We wish you a great career in information technology.